have a copy of it. And I'm also going to share on Facebook. So if you're uncomfortable with your face being visible, you can turn your camera off. And if you're fine with that, please leave your camera on. When Mark does the presentation, I will minimize the faces so we just see him speaking. And other than that, let me just make sure I can find, there we go. So I'll get that started. But everyone, welcome. This is, who'd have thought we'd still be doing this in March 2021? But this is, I started doing these Travel Tuesdays in probably May last year. So we've been doing this for quite a while. Mark, thank you for returning. We had you on previously, and it's great that you came back. We actually even had Carl come on and do expedition cruising one
fabulous.
day. Yeah. So we've had, this is the third iteration with Silversea, and it's great to have you with us. Silversea Cruises, Mark will go through the different ones, but just so you know, I think you go to all 7 continents, Mark, and you also have like 900 ports or something like that?
Almost 1,000. We were going to break 1,000 in 2021 before COVID hit. So, you know, we're starting over again. But yeah, we sail to more destinations than any other cruise line, over 900 for sure. You know, as we launch new ships, we've got 4 new ships coming out in the next 2 years. So with all of those ships doing their own deployments and their own cruises, we'll be well over 1,000 destinations globally, which is more than double what our next closest competitor does.
That's incredible. So it's certainly, I'll have Mark take over the floor in just a second, but just to reiterate the fact for you guys that, you know, Silversea will have something for everyone, whether it's expedition cruising or classic cruising. And I'm sure, Mark, you're going to give a little introduction about it today.
Absolutely.
And also, we're going to touch on the new World Cruise that I think is going on sale to the public
tomorrow.
So perfect timing. And just a recap for folks who are new. Last week I had AMA Waterways, and we talked about everything new in the world of AMA Waterways, including their fantastic new 7 Rivers epic world, kind of a world cruise for river cruising. Next week, I have Cork Expeditions, and we're going to be talking about Antarctica. We have Manoir Hovey, a great hotel in Quebec, coming up as well. And continue to invite you to join me on these Travel Tuesdays. It's great to, while we can't travel right now, at least we can dream about it. And since March came in, now that the vaccines are coming to Canada, I certainly feel a lot of optimism from folks. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you everyone for continuing to join me on these Tuesday chats. And Mark, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to minimize my screen so that everybody can see the screen. And so my name is Mark Sarowich. I'm the Director of Sales for Silversea Cruises in Canada. And I would like to thank Sheila for putting together this, you know, these little webinars, because it's a great way to communicate with people while we, you know, remain in lockdown or in different color-coded phases of reopening. So I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, you know, when we will be returning to service. The quick answer to that is we don't exactly know. We expect it to be either 3rd or 4th quarter of this year. We're waiting for a number of different directives from the CDC, who are going to be setting the standard for the return to service. But what I can assure you is that no matter what the CDC decides, we will be complying with all of their recommendations so that we can make the return to service as safe and enjoyable as ever. There's been a lot of different talk about, you know, whether or not vaccines are going to be required. I think that Silversea and pretty much most of the Royal Caribbean group, because we're not planning on returning until the second half of this year, at least in the US, most of the people will be vaccinated by then, hopefully in Canada by 3rd quarter of this year. So we're really looking at 2022 as our first really big full year of returning to cruising. We're hoping, as I mentioned, to be sailing either third or fourth quarter this year. But in reality, most people are booking cruises for 2022 and 2023. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the world of Silversea, what type of cruises we provide, what type of cruises we have on offer. And of course, it always starts with the question, who is Silversea Cruises? Many of you may be familiar with the brand. To many of you, it may be a brand new brand. But Silversea is the largest luxury cruise line in the world. We are a luxurious and all-inclusive brand. As a matter of fact, Silversea was the world's first all-inclusive cruise line. We're not the oldest luxury brand in the marketplace. Both Seabourn and Crystal are older than Silversea. But if you bought a Crystal cruise back in the early 1990s, or a Seabourn cruise, and you wanted to have a glass of wine with dinner or a cocktail after dinner, it was pay as you go. It was like staying in a five-star hotel, and with every addition, you were charged extra. Silversea changed all of that when they made cruising all-inclusive. They basically said, we will be priced at a little bit of a higher price point, but we're going to include everything. And of course, consumers fell in love with the entire concept of not constantly having to sign for a drink or sign for a glass of wine with dinner. So it's become a very, very popular concept. Silversea pioneered it, but it's pretty much been embraced by all of the luxury brands around the world. Silversea continues to offer the finest at sea. So if it be, Pratesi linens in all of the suites, Bulgari bath and beauty products, spectacular dining, complimentary butler service, we really are the finest experience at sea. What differentiates us from other luxury brands is that we have very small, beautiful ships. A little bit smaller than most brands, and of course, with very spacious, comfortable suites, very friendly, personalized service, delicious cuisine, and of course, the thing which really sets us apart is the fact that we are the destination leader. As I mentioned right at the very, very beginning of the presentation, we sail to more destinations than any other cruise line. We actually sail to almost 1,000. We will break 1,000 next year when we launch Silver Dawn. During COVID, we actually launched 2 brand new ships. So Silver Origin is now in the Galapagos, and the second ship, Silver Moon, we took delivery of that beauty in the month of November. Then we've got Silver Dawn coming out later this year, and then 2 yet unnamed Evolution class ships, which will be coming out in 2022. So by the end of 2022, Silversea will be a fleet of 12 luxury vessels. And here you can see on this map all the different destinations that we travel to. So the little red dots represent our expedition destinations, and the little white dots represent our classic destinations. So what is the difference between classic and expedition? So classic cruising, when I mention the word classic or traditional, think of destinations like the Mediterranean. Think of the Baltic, Australia, New Zealand, Asia. Think of the great cities of the world like Hong Kong, Tokyo, Sydney, Rio de Janeiro, Venice, Barcelona, the great iconic centers. And so those are the type of cruises that our classic fleet does. But Silversea also offers a second style of cruising, and that is expedition cruising. And our expedition ships travel to the remotest parts of the world where there are no airports, parts of the world where there are no docking facilities, where we actually have to tender and take Zodiacs ashore. So places like the Outer Hebrides Islands off the coast of Scotland, places like Greenland, the Canadian High Arctic, places like Antarctica, the Kimberley region of Australia, or the Galapagos are classic expedition destinations. And so our fleet, as I mentioned, will grow to 12 by the end of 2022. We currently have 9 ships because we recently took delivery of Silver Moon. Silver Dawn will be coming on board later this year, and then 2 Evolution class ships in 2022. Our smallest ship carries just 100 guests. Our largest ship carries 600. So the nice thing about Silversea is that because we offer cruising with very small, intimate vessels, we are very versatile. We are able to do this, okay? And this is really the quintessential image of Silversea. This is a picture of Silver Wind sailing under the beautiful Tower Bridge in London. So when Silversea says, you know, we travel to London, we mean London. We don't mean Southampton with a 2-hour transfer to London, or Dover, or port along the English Channel. We mean we're able to sail, we're small enough that we're able to sail right up the Thames, sail right underneath Tower Bridge, and dock in the heart of London. Small is actually very beautiful, and we love the fact that our ships are small. We're able to travel farther and deeper into the destination than any other cruise line. We're able to sail up the Yangtze River right to Shanghai and dock at the Bund. We're able to sail up the Mekong right to Ho Chi Minh City and dock in city center. In St. Petersburg, we're able to dock on the English Embankment, a stone's throw away from the Hermitage. And so we love the fact that we've got beautiful ships. They don't have the big bells and whistles that some of the really big cruise lines like Royal Caribbean and NCL and Princess and Carnival have, but we offer a certain intimacy and a very, very unique style of service. Silversea is also now more all-inclusive than ever. We now include shore excursions, not just on expedition voyages, but also on our classic voyages. And so really, I think it was COVID that really made us rethink becoming all-inclusive on the excursion side. The reason for it being that in the past, when you docked in a city like Istanbul, or if you docked in Barcelona or Venice, we wanted to give our clients the freedom to do what they wanted to do. And so not to overly structure their vacation experience with a lot of, you know, shore excursions that they felt that they had to take. So we left the shore excursion on classic voyages optional, because in cities like Barcelona and Venice and Istanbul, there are a lot of options. There are so many things to do in these different ports that we like to keep it optional. And if clients wanted to purchase an excursion, they could. And if they wanted to do their own thing in port, they could. Now, as you know, when we return to service, particularly if it's in 2021, we are not going to be able to allow passengers to just disembark the ship, wander into the port on their own, and then risk bringing COVID back on board. So we will have to have structured programs and shore excursions where everybody sticks together as a group in order to minimize the spread of the virus. And so for that reason, we decided to, we will be including excursions upon the return to service, and they'll be included in the pricing starting in 2022. We've also included air in all our pricing. So if you go to Silversea's website at www.silversea.com, any price that you see, you know, is an all-inclusive price, including air. Now you may think, but Mark, didn't Silversea always include air? No, not always. We started including air about 3 years ago, but it was always included as a promotional item. So there would always be an expiry date. You know, the air was available until March 31st. And then, you know, we would only have the contract until that time. And then we'd have to recontract with different airlines. So these were always promotional offers. Now air is a integral part of the fare, and air is included. You can opt to also take an air credit if you choose. Each destination has a different value. So if you opt to use your Aeroplan points, you can take the air credits. So we deduct a price off the cruise fare, and then you can book your own air. Silversea Suites, of course, we offer comfort and space. So the top of the screen, where you're looking at that suite, that's as small as it gets. That's a veranda suite. 376 square feet. That's the small one. That's the smallest one. And then of course they go up from there, and you look at the bottom part of the screen, and you've got, you know, the 1-bedroom, the 2-bedroom suites with a separate living room area, separate dining room area. So Silversea is an all suite product. We offer, you know, more comfort, more choice, more variety than a standard cruise. I want to talk a little bit about our grand voyages. We, of course, sail all over the world. So I can talk about Mediterranean, I can talk about Baltic, I can talk about Caribbean, 7-day, 10-day, 12-day. But these grand voyages are really something unique. And this is really things and journeys that people aspire to. And I wanted to talk about them just because they are selling at record pace at the moment. Okay. Each and every one of us knows that we've all lost a year of our lives. Last year was a complete write-off. It was a year ago that everything shut down, and we haven't been traveling for a year. And when we finally reopen for service, we've noticed the cruises, the pace that we're selling cruises in 2022 and 2023 is unprecedented because people don't want to be left out. They feel like they've been sitting at home long enough. And so some of the most popular voyages that we have are something which we call our grand voyages. So I want to talk to you about this European grand voyage, which is really like a world cruise, except that it features just one specific part of the world. And in this case, it's Europe, 90 days from Athens to Stockholm, including Iceland, including the Norwegian fjords, including St. Petersburg, goes all the way around the Iberian Peninsula. It's an absolutely stunning itinerary, starts on March 30th, 2022, and sails right till June 28th. 90 days, 72 different destinations, 22 countries, and 7 exclusive events. This cruise can be divided into 2 segments. There is the Mediterranean Grand Voyage, which goes from Athens to Lisbon, pretty much covering almost every conceivable port of call along the north shore of the Mediterranean from Athens all the way to Lisbon. It is a dynamite itinerary. And of course, one of the things about the grand voyages, we treat these like a world cruise in that we will have special curated events, equestrian traditions and flavors of Andalusia. So these are specific Silversea curated events that we will host in different ports. As a highlight in Istanbul, there's a spectacular dinner in the famous cisterns with the 110 columns, which you may remember from the James Bond movie, From Russia with Love. It's just an absolutely spectacular venue. And this is where we'll have special events for Silversea guests. This is the second portion of the European Grand Voyage, and this is the Northern European Grand Voyage from Lisbon to Stockholm. In Liverpool, there will be an evening with the Lord Mayor. In Husavik, this is a little island. The island only has 6 inhabitants, and you're able to go over there for a beautiful Icelandic lunch. It's a very picturesque community. In Oslo, there will be an evening at the Opera House, and in Rouen, we'll have an opportunity to visit Claude Monet's famous gardens at Giverny. And so, as I mentioned, these are exclusive events for Silversea guests. So this is the column of the 1001 cisterns. It's just an absolutely beautiful venue. We'll be hosting a spectacular evening dinner while in Istanbul. This is the evening with the Lord Mayor. This is, of course, Liverpool City Hall, where the event will take place, one of the most beautiful 18th century town halls in the entire UK. And then, of course, this is the little lunch outing in Iceland at Flatley Island near Husavik, which will be a very, very beautiful event. The South American Grand Voyage, very, very similar to the European Grand Voyage. It is a full circumnavigation of the South American continent from January 6th to March 16th on board the brand new Silver Moon, which is our latest ship. Silver Moon features 8 restaurants, and this itinerary, round trip Fort Lauderdale, sails to Cozumel in Mexico, then down along the coast of Central America, through the Panama Canal, down the west coast of South America, around Cape Horn, up to Buenos Aires, Montevideo in Uruguay, then up along the coast of Brazil with, of course, a stop in Rio, and then continuing back through the Lesser Antilles of the Caribbean to Fort Lauderdale. So this is going to be a real phenomenal voyage for people who really want a complete like a world cruise experience, but with a focus on just South America. So there'll be a number of special events. So as I mentioned, in Valparaiso, there's vineyards at sunset. So you'll travel inland from Valparaiso to beautiful wineries in Chile, where we'll have, sunset wine tasting and dinner. In Rio de Janeiro, of course, overnighting, and you'll be able to participate in the Rio Carnival. And then Gustavia Island in the Caribbean, you'll have a spectacular evening under the stars with bonfires and very, very festive foods and entertainment. So again, the biggest show on earth, which is of course the Rio Carnival, you'll have like almost front row seats for this very spectacular event that's happening on the 20th of February, 2023. And so really something to start considering now, because as I mentioned, these cruises, even though they're almost 2 years out, they're selling at record pace. The Pacific Grand Voyage, which will be from Melbourne to Osaka, will be on Silver Muse, which is a sister ship to the Moon. And this will go from Melbourne, Australia, over to Tasmania, then across to New Zealand. We spend about a week in New Zealand, and then back to Sydney, up the coast of Queensland, around Papua New Guinea, through Indonesia to Singapore, then Vietnam, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Osaka. It's just an absolute beautiful 58 days, almost 2 months, with a real focus on Australia, Melanesia, Southeast Asia, and of course, ending in Japan. And the Melbourne to Osaka, of course, will highlight a number of specific events like the Paint the Town Red, where we will take you to a very special restaurant in Shanghai that for a Chinese culinary extravaganza. Hobart will be another special event, and then a night at the opera in Sydney. So these are very, very special events that will be featuring on these grand voyages. So Paint the Town Red, this is the restaurant. Of course, it's the name of the restaurant is The Lion, and it's one of the most famous restaurants in Shanghai. So we basically chartered it just for Silversea guests, and it's a very special evening. There are a number of exclusive benefits that you get when you sign up for a grand voyage. One is of course, air is included. There's overnight accommodation pre-cruise, because we don't want anybody, flying to the destination the day that the ship sails. We want you to be able to arrive, have a nice, comfortable sleep, and then board the ship the following day at your leisure. We, of course, include one shore excursion in every port, plus a number of special events, $1,000 onboard spending credit per guest, and that number is increased to $2,000 for the European Grand Voyage, because it's a combination of the Mediterranean and the Northern Europe Grand Voyage. Of course, as I mentioned, exclusive shoreside events, transfers are included, luggage service. There's a visa package. We also offer complimentary medical services on board. So if you need to see the doctor, normally we would charge for that, but on grand voyages, on world cruises, we waive certain medical services, laundry services, of course, included, and unlimited Wi-Fi. So it really is an all-inclusive experience. The 2022 World Cruise will be sailing next January, and it is known as the Tale of Tales. It goes from 65 degrees south latitude to 65 degrees north latitude. This is the itinerary: Fort Lauderdale all the way to Copenhagen. And this has since been subdivided into 8 segments. And so it is now possible to purchase just a segment of the World Cruise. Typically, the segments are, 15 to 21 days in length. And so they're shorter cruises that kind of focus on a unique part of the World Cruise. And the thing about the 2022 World Cruise is and Silversea is really an innovator when it comes to our World Cruises. We're very proud of this. This was the very first World Cruise that called in Antarctica. And so nobody's ever done a cruise that is called in Antarctica, because to sail into Antarctica, you have to have an ice class ship. And on Silversea, the 2022 World Cruise will be on an ice class vessel on the Silver Cloud. So, you know, it's safe and able to enter into Antarctic waters. And of course, you're going to be able to do Zodiac landings and actually set foot on Antarctica. So not just Antarctica, but also South Georgia Island with about 60,000 king penguins. So really quite an experience to do that. The 2023 World Cruise is known as Southside Story. All the World's a Stage. This one will sail from the 9th of January to the 28th of May, 2023. And the unique thing about this itinerary is that it begins in Sydney, Australia, and sails to Fort Lauderdale. So Silversea, the 2023 World Cruise will be on a new ship. And when I say new, I mean it'll be on a ship that's never done a world cruise before, and that is the Silver Whisper. Typically, our classic world cruises were always on Silver Shadow. Typically, our world cruises were always on Silver Whisper. Silver Shadow is Silver Whisper's sister ship. She's been completely renovated, completely reconfigured. She's absolutely spectacular. And because we begin in Sydney, Australia, we have a partnership with Qantas Airlines where we will all be flying business class to Sydney from select North American gateways. You know, the World Cruise begins by a complimentary transfer. We pick you up at your home. We drive you to your airport. You fly to the gateway. You board the Qantas flight. You fly business class to Sydney. From Sydney Airport, we take you, you know, with transfer to the ship. And you embark the ship in Sydney. The thing about the 2023 World Cruise is that the World Cruise begins on the 7th of January, but the Silver Shadow will end her last cruise on the 5th of January. So she'll be completely empty on the 6th, which is the day before, which means that when you arrive on the 7th, you won't have to deal with passengers disembarking the ship the same day that you're embarking the ship. The ship will be completely empty. And when that flight lands, you'll be able to go directly to your suite. Southside Story itinerary. So I'll just quickly go through it. You can see it now on the screen. So you begin in Sydney. We sail down to Tasmania and Hobart, then across to New Zealand, where we spend about a week visiting the spectacular fjords and bays and some of the very charming towns like Wellington and Auckland. Then it's up the coast through Melanesia and Papua New Guinea, up through the Philippines to Hong Kong, Halong Bay, Bangkok, down to Singapore, over to Myanmar, then across to Sri Lanka, where you'll have an opportunity to see the famous stick fishermen. Then from Sri Lanka, you'll be sailing to the Seychelles Islands, Mahe, you'll visit a number of the Seychelles, then over to Zanzibar, then over to Madagascar, you'll visit Madagascar and Mauritius for a few days before sailing over to South Africa, you know, Durban, Cape Town, and then up to Angola, Walvis Bay, up the coast of West Africa to Dakar. And then we're going to do something unique. We're going to do something that has never been done before on a world cruise. We're going to sail across the Atlantic to the Cape Verde Islands, continue across the Atlantic and sail up the Amazon all the way to Manaus and have an overnight in Manaus and then sail down the Amazon from Manaus back out to the Atlantic and then through visiting a number of Caribbean islands before ending the world cruise in Fort Lauderdale. So this is the first world cruise in history that will sail in and out of the Amazon River. So Silversea ships are, excuse me, small enough that we
You
small
okay
enough.
You want to take a drink?
Some water, yeah.
Yeah, I know. When you're on these things, you talk nonstop for an hour, so it's a little difficult to go. But my goodness, I've never seen a world cruise with that southern focus. That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's spectacular. So we've never done, actually, nobody's ever done an itinerary that goes up and down the Amazon River. So in reality, I mean, Silversea is kind of like an ocean ship and a river ship at the same time. And you're able really to penetrate a lot of very, very unique areas of the world. So what I'd like to do now is talk to you a little bit about the ships of Silversea, particularly Silver Shadow, because this is the ship which will be doing the world cruise. And so this is the reception area. So when the minute you look at it, the first thing you notice is, wow, it is completely different from most of the, Caribbean style cruise ships, these big mega ships that you see being constructed by the industry today. Where you have atriums that are, soaring 10 stories, and it's like a big echo chamber. You walk onto Silver Shadow, and it feels like you've just walked into a small European boutique hotel, right? Everything's kind of on one level. You've got nice little chandelier type lighting above this beautiful sculpture work, and there's the reception desk. I want to talk a little bit about the public areas on Silver Shadow. So my favorite public area on every Silversea ship is always the observation lounge. I love the observation lounge because it's always at the top of the ship, all the way forward. And the thing that I love about the observation lounge is that you can actually, sit down and see the cruise and see the direction that the ship is sailing. So beautiful floor to ceiling windows, all along, very, very well lit, very beautiful, lots of room to sit down and relax. It's also got a nice bar area where you can have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or a glass of champagne and just watch and see where the ship is sailing to. It's very popular with photographers because you're kind of at a higher level, so you get a nice kind of perspective of the destination as you're sailing into a port or sailing out of a port. And observation lounge is always my favorite place on a Silversea vessel. The opposite of the observation lounge is the panorama lounge. And when I say the opposite, it's not the opposite in terms of what it offers. They both offer floor to ceiling windows, but the panorama lounge is located all the way aft. So observation lounge is all the way forward, panorama lounge is all the way aft or at the back of the ship. And it also has a really beautiful outdoor area, which is covered with like shades. So you can sit in the shade, have a cocktail, have a drink, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. But it's just a beautiful venue to just sit and just, see where you've just come from or just watch the scenery go by. Panorama Lounge is very beautiful. Then there's the bar. It's located directly off of the atrium area or the reception area of Silver Shadow, and it is between the reception area and the theater. So this is a very popular bar to come before the show in the evening or after the show in the evening. We also have a connoisseur lounge where if you're interested in a nice scotch or a nice brandy, this is where you come. There's the card room where they've got chess games, checkers, a variety of different board games, Monopoly, Yahtzee, all of the standard board games, as well as cards. And people come here to play bridge or play poker, or just play euchre. And of course, the ship has a nice library where you can pull out a book. One of the things about Silversea ships is we have a lot of destination themed books. And so, wherever it is that we're sailing, there's always some literature on the destination. And then now I just wanted to show you some of the accommodations. So Vista Suite, this is the lead-in category. So it doesn't have a veranda, but it has a picture window at the end of the room, but very spacious. Veranda suite, same size on the interior, with the exception that you've got big sliding doors where you can step out onto your own private veranda, and there you can just enjoy a nice, glass of wine in the evenings, or just know immediately what the temperature's like. Medallion suites and silver suites and one bedroom suites. This is the ones that you have with the separate sleeping accommodations, separate living room accommodations. And so these vary in size. Medallion is kind of a mid-range. Then you get into the 1 and the 2 bedroom. So there's a variety of accommodations on Silversea. starting from Vista category. All of them have marble bathrooms with separate shower and bathtub, double vanity sink, and of course, all of the finest bath and beauty products are included. One of the nicest things about having a veranda is the service at the veranda. So you just pick up the phone, you call your stateroom steward or you call your butler, and they can bring you breakfast to enjoy on your veranda balcony. Cup of coffee, wine. All guests have in-suite butler service. So this is not a service that is reserved only for certain Silversea guests. Everybody on board Silversea gets in-suite butler service. So champagne at 4 p.m. or, while you're getting ready for dinner, if you want to call your butler and have a little champagne and caviar before, heading over to the lounge for a pre-dinner drink, or just before going down for dinner, you can do that. Evenings on board Silversea are quite nice. Silversea Classic or traditional, unlike Expedition, does have a dress code. So on our Expedition ships, there is no dress code. Everything is casual. Every night is a casual night. But on our classic or traditional voyages, we do have formal, semi-formal, and casual evenings. On a typical 12-night cruise, you would have probably 2, possibly 3 formal nights, and then the remainder would be semi-formal or casual evenings. But dining on Silversea is quite an event. It's something that everybody looks forward to, and that's because the food is absolutely amazing. We have 160 different labels of wine on board our ships, and 50 of those labels are complimentary. So we have complimentary wine from 50 different 50 different bottles, or 50 different labels are completely complimentary, and you can have as much as you like. The food, of course, we've elevated it to an art form. Silversea is all about the presentation of the food, the way it looks, the way it's presented to you on your plate. And that's, of course, the mastery of our executive chefs that labor over the menus and try to make the dining experience as phenomenal as possible. So on board our largest ships like Silver Moon, Silver Dawn, Silver Muse, Silver Spirit, there are up to 8 different restaurant choices. But on Silver Shadow, there are 5. Silver Shadow and Silver Whisper have 5. So I'm going to go through those 5 with you. So the first one is the restaurant. The restaurant, Silversea is it's a luxury brand, but we're not pretentious. We don't make up like fancy names for the main restaurant. We just call it the restaurant. And it's a very beautiful venue. You can see it here, the beautiful tablecloths, the upholstered chairs, the beautiful window coverings with the drapes. Very, very nice. Windows on both sides, so it's very well lit. It's located on deck 4. The restaurant is open seating, so you never have to make a reservation. You can just show up whenever you want, either as a couple or with friends, and just request a table for 4, a table for 6, and it's never a problem. The cuisine in the restaurant is classic, fare, a lot of contemporary items. The classics. When I mean the classics, I mean lobster tail steak, baked salmon, rotisserie chicken. There's certain items that are always available, but the menu is quite extensive. Another restaurant option on Silver Shadow is La Terrazza. La Terrazza is located up on deck 8, floor-to-ceiling windows. It's a popular venue for meals because it's got buffet station and it's got all types of chef stations. So you can have your waffles made a certain way. You can have your omelet made to order. You can have your pasta made to order. So they've got all of these different stations where you basically tell the chef what you want in your omelet or in your pasta, and he'll create it to order for you. La Terrazza also has an outdoor dining venue, so you can have your breakfast, lunch, or dinner out of doors. And so here you can see people dining at La Terrazza. So it's a very popular place to come, particularly for breakfast and lunch, because if people just want to grab something very, very quick because they've got a shore excursion that's leaving, La Terrazza is the place. But in the evenings, La Terrazza is completely transformed. And so what happens is, we dim the lighting, we put tablecloths down on the tables, and it becomes a classic Italian dining venue. So fine Italian dining in La Terrazza in the evening. So beautiful tablecloths, beautiful napkins, flowers on the table. And of course, the food is from all the regions of Italy, and very, very extensive dining menu at La Terrazza. The next dining option is La Dame. And in La Dame, reservations are required. And they are required because this venue is very small. It is a classic French dining restaurant. So the style of cuisine is classic French, which means étouffé. It means a lot of sauces. It means a lot of butter. It means a lot of heavy cream. It's very rich. The food is very decadent. It's very delicious. People love it. But typically, you'll dine once in La Dame, and then for the next few days, all you want for dinner is salad, just because it's it's a very decadent dining experience. People will not do La Dame more than once in a 1 week cruise. It's a lot of food. It's very delicious. People talk about it, but you won't go. You want to go back, but then you go maybe not. It's just very, very rich. But La Dame is an amazing experience. There is a $60 cover charge at La Dame because it is a 9-course meal, which is paired with wine. And the wines that we select are the finer wines that are all from different regions of France. And so it's a wine paired 9-course dinner. So very, very special. And of course, as I mentioned, fine French cuisine, and it's absolutely excellent. Try it once on board when you sail on Silversea. Next dining venue is a little bit lighter fare called The Grill. And The Grill is located poolside. It's an outdoor alfresco dining area. In the mornings and in the afternoon, this is where people come for burgers and sandwiches and, little kind of light poolside snacks. But in the evenings, it turns into kind of a grill experience where we heat the lava stone to 400 degrees Celsius. And then you select if you want, beef tenderloin or veal chop or salmon, and they put it on the sizzling hot lava stone and it cooks. And then, they pair it with vegetables and different things. And you eat it out of doors in the salt breeze from the ocean, and everything just tastes more delicious. So it's absolutely incredible. And then the last dining option available to Silversea guests is in-suite dining. Sometimes people just don't want to go out, and so I just want you to know that if that's the case and you don't feel like going out for dinner, you just want to order in, we can arrange in-suite dining for you. You just call your butler and he'll make the arrangements. You tell them, which menu would you like to order from. He'll bring the food from whichever kitchen you choose. And so in-suite dining is an option. Show lounge on Silver Shadow, you can see very intimate, very small. This is where we have the lectures in the daytime, we'll have a different destination talks or port talks. That'll happen in the show lounge. And then of course, there's the entertainment, the evening entertainment is in the show lounge as well. And so very popular place to come either before or after dinner. Just wanted to show you some of the deck areas. This is, of course, the Lido deck on Silver Shadow. And when I saw this ship, this one, the Silver Whisper, the Silver Wind, the Silver Cloud, the smallness of these ships just reminded me of the old days of cruising. So any of you on this call remember the TV show, The Love Boat? There was a ship that was filmed on the Pacific Princess. I used to work at Princess Cruises. And when I first came on board Silver Whisper, I looked at that pool and I said, oh my God, this reminds me of that small, beautiful ship, the Pacific Princess. Because back then, the ships were very small compared to today, and they don't build ships like this anymore. This is a really unique experience. This is why people go crazy for Silversea, because they want the feeling of what cruising was about when cruising was in its early years, which was the 1960s, 1970s. Cruising started to gain in popularity. In the 70s, the Love Boat made cruising very popular and much more mainstream. And then the ships got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, they come with 5 pools and 6 pools, and they're just gigantic. And but this is kind of more of an intimate experience. And so Silver Shadow to me is the perfect size ship for the destinations that we put it on. It's got a nice little jogging track around the perimeter. This is a picture of the pool area, and you can see very intimate, lots of space for everybody. There are lounge chairs. You don't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to throw your towel down. There are plenty of lounge chairs for everybody on the ship because we're an all-suite product. So Silver Shadow only carries 388 passengers. It doesn't carry 6,000. It doesn't carry 5,000. And of course, some of these loungers have the shades, which you can see here, or you can just go sit in an area of the ship where it's nice and quiet and read a book. And it's really, you connect with the sea, and it's really, Silversea is the perfect brand. It's cruising for people who love cruising, right? The pool deck as well, very popular in the evenings because there is a bar by the pool deck, and people that just want to have a drink outdoors and just sit by the pool and just kind of feel the energy of the ship. This is where they come. The ship also has boutiques on board, so you can do a little bit of shopping, but the boutiques are only open when the ship is sailing. When we're in port, we are required to remain closed, so we're not competing with the shoreside businesses. There is also a spa on board Silver Shadow known as the Zagara Spa. And here you could go for a number of different treatments, massages, Swedish massage, hot stone massage. There's also a sauna on board, and you can just go, and it's of course got a nice picture window so you can look out at the sea. So very nice. And then of course there's the fitness center. So typically right after a dinner at La Dame, people are here. You find everybody that dined at La Dame the night before in the fitness center the next day. And there are of course free weights available. There's treadmills, there's ellipticals, there's Stairmaster. There's a whole variety of equipment, pull down equipment, resistance equipment. So it's a great way to stay in shape while you're sailing. Okay. So Southside Story, the itinerary, as I mentioned, it goes from Sydney all the way to Fort Lauderdale with a real focus on the Southern Hemisphere. We really only venture north of the equator when we come out of the Amazon and up through the Caribbean, and then a little bit, as we go up into the Philippines along the coast of China. But much of the itinerary is south of the equator. And so, of course, a number of, very, very unique opportunities to be had on this itinerary. So in Manaus, there's a performance at the Amazon Opera House, or the Manaus Opera House. In Zanzibar. Zanzibar, by the way, is the birthplace of Freddie Mercury, the lead singer for Queen. He grew up there before emigrating to the UK. And so there is a special evening that we're going to be doing in Zanzibar as a tribute to him. In Cape Town, South Africa, there will be a special screening of the film Invictus in the rugby stadium. In Halong Bay, there is going to be a very, very unique event where we're going to be having a special dinner in the Caves of the Descending Dragons, which is this gigantic cave in Halong Bay. And it's quite a magical event. And then in Papua New Guinea, you'll have an opportunity to see the famous fire dance. St. John's, Antigua, you'll have an opportunity to meet with the Governor General and his wife for cocktail and dinner. In the Philippines, it'll just be a day of paradise on this beautiful strip of white sandy beach. In Vanuatu on Champagne Beach, you'll have an opportunity to see the water dancers. And in Picton, there'll be a little sunset, wine evening at a wine estate in New Zealand. So these, of course, Champagne Beach, where the locals do a very beautiful dance with the waters. And so they sing and they kind of splash the water around, but it's very rhythmic. It's very beautiful. And you'll have an opportunity to experience that. And then, of course, in Papua New Guinea, you'll be able to see the famous fire dance, where, you know, the chanting begins, they get the fire going, and then the fire kind of simmers down into the coals, and then the dancers start to get into this chant, and they kind of become into a trance, and then they start walking over the hot coals. And so this is only performed now. The elders of these tribes have instructed that these fire dances are only to be performed in the tribal villages. So they can't be performed anywhere else. And so you'll have an opportunity one evening to visit a local tribe in Papua New Guinea to see the famous Baning fire dance. And here you can see it as they walk across the coals, seemingly, not even feeling the heat. And of course, as I mentioned, in Zanzibar, this is where we have the special tribute concert to Freddie Mercury, and there he is. And that's the World Cruise. So that'll kind of, covers some of the highlights. The itinerary is very beautiful. And as I mentioned, special evenings throughout. So really on Silversea, if you're looking at an amazing vacation experience, there's no better way to see the world than on board a Silversea ship. We really specialize in smaller ships, which enable us to travel to ports and small coves and bays that are not accessible to big vessels, big cruise ships. We offer exclusive experiences in the different ports of call. Our ships are very intimate and personal. And of course, we're an all-inclusive brand, but we're also a luxury brand. So our lifestyle on board is one of indulgence, very, very high quality. The service on Silversea is impeccable. The suites are very spacious, very nicely appointed. The food on board is, of course, amazing. So superb gastronomy. And of course, you're traveling with like-minded guests. And by that, I mean people that are really interested in exploring and experiencing the authentic beauty of the world. So Silversea, all-inclusive pricing. So when you buy any Silversea cruise, the price includes complimentary shore excursions, complimentary wine, complimentary bar beverages. All gratuities are included. Wi-Fi is included, complimentary butler service. And when I say all-inclusive, we also include air and transfers. For more information, always, contact Sheila, but I'll tell you right now that if you are interested in any of the grand voyages, because we only come out with those once a year, if you're interested in the World Cruise, there's only one of those a year. Ask yourself, and a lot of people, especially after a year of lockdown, have asked themselves the question, how many trips of a lifetime are there in a lifetime? And because we've all lost a year traveling, we're seeing all of this pent-up demand being released, and people are booking 2022 and 2023. So if there's anything in this presentation that you really enjoyed seeing and that you would like more information on, please contact Sheila at Lush Life Travel, which is a division of Vision and Direct Travel Company. And having said that, I want to thank all of you, and I'm available for questions if anybody has any questions about Silversea. Thank you for your attention.
Mark, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Let you have a drink there. I do know we have a number of questions that came in as you were speaking, and I think the overview you gave of the grand voyages and the World Cruise is just terrific. The one thing that this pandemic has taught us is that we can't waste any trips anymore. Yeah. Not that any trip is a waste, but we have to make up for a year of not traveling, as you said. Yeah. So I personally have noticed with my own clients that since March started, at least, there's certainly a lot more interest in getting something on the books. We're tired of not being able to travel, and we want to have something that we can plan and look forward to. And as you say, there's never a better time. I'll grab a couple of the questions I think got repeated. A few folks had to drop off. They had another commitment. Mark, you have some time for questions?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Okay. So I do know that a question came, a few people about solo passengers. And I know that Silversea often has reduced solo supplements, sometimes 10%, often 25%. What's the current standing on that, Mark?
Yeah, so depending on the voyage, we have single supplements as low as 110%. So when I say 110%, it means that it's you're paying the second person, the first person pays you're paying 110% of the cost of the cabin, right? So sorry, you're paying 110% of the cost of the
It's a price based on the folks, the solo ladies who are on here know that if there's no reduced solo supplement, you pay for two people in the cabin, so it's
right.
200%.
So it'd be 200%. So the lowest one would be 110. So instead of paying 210% or 200% for the suite, you're paying 110% for the suite. So just a little bit more than half, which would normally be 200%.
Yeah.
I know it sounds confusing because
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Silversea cruises are based on double occupancy. So if a cruise is $5,000, it's $5,000 a person or $10,000 a suite, right? But instead of paying $10,000 for the suite at 120%, you'd be paying $6,000 for the suite. So you'd have the suite to yourself for $6,000 instead of $10,000, right? And because 1,000 is 1/5 of 5, that would be at 20%. So 10% would be like 5,500 on a $10,000 suite.
So 110% is great when it's offered. 125% is even lower than what is often the industry standard. So for the solo folks who are on here, please let me know. We can track it. I do track it with Mark and Silversea. Mark, can we stop sharing the screen so we can bring on?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I know that there's a number of solo ladies, so if there's anything there of interest in particular. Mark, with the Grand Voyages and the World Cruises, is there reduced solo supplement? Or?
No, World Cruise never has a single supplement on it. The 2022 one does because we've segmented it. But currently, I think there is one on the 2022 that's at 150 versus 200. So there is some savings on that. But if you've got anybody interested, just have them get in touch with you. And I can find out specifically voyage by voyage what has a solo traveler rate. We actually call them solar traveler rates now instead of single supplements, but just get in touch with me if somebody's interested, and I can find out for you and get you the list of the voyages that have special deals for solo travelers.
And I know another question, and then I'll open it up to people to come on. I'll read through some of the questions in the chat, but there was also the difference between the classic and expedition. The expedition is more not rugged, but you're going to be visiting different ports, and it's a different size ship, so it does tend to be a little bit more adventurous. Yes. You have to be able to get into a zodiac, essentially.
Yeah. Right? So I'll give you a little bit of just kind of a quick little comparison on the difference between classic and expedition. So our classic ships are our larger ships. So they carry typically 380 to 600 guests. So of all of the ships in the Silversea fleet, the largest ships are the classic or traditional ships. The expedition ships are the smaller ones. So the smallest is Silver Origin. She just carries 100 guests. She sails to the Galapagos, so that's only 50 suites. And so 100 guests is the maximum that you're allowed to bring into the Galapagos Islands because it is a national park. Then we've got Silver Explorer, carries 144, and Silver Cloud and Silver Wind carry about 275. So expedition is between 100 and 275 guests, and classic is about 380 to 600. So in terms of the size, the expedition ships are the most intimate and they're the smallest. So because they're the smallest, you've got the fewest number of dining choices as well. You don't have the same range of dining options that you have on classic. On our classic ships, we have up to 8 restaurants to choose from. On expedition, you're looking at 2 to 4. restaurants on expedition. The other thing about expedition, it's really the mindset. Classic voyages, people are on vacation. They're there to see the great cities of the world, but they also enjoy the sea days. They enjoy just, laying up by the pool, enjoying a book. Expedition is a little bit more adventure. So typically you're in and out of zodiacs. Classic voyages will have a schedule. They'll tell you, at 9 o'clock we're docking, and our first excursion starts at 10 p.m. and then it's back on the ship, and the ship sails at this time. On expedition, it's a lot more fluid and a lot more flexible, because on expedition, you never know what's going to happen. So for example, you could be sailing in Greenland, and all of a sudden the captain comes on the PA and he says, "Hey, we just saw a little group of walruses, just lying out on this rock. So we're going to get a little closer, get your gear on. We're all going to hop on the Zodiacs, and we're going to get a little closer so you can get a closer look at this little walrus colony in Greenland." And so, it's basically what's available at that time. It's the same thing if there's whales, if they spot whales in the water, they'll make an announcement, people get their gear on, they get into the Zodiac, and they'll get a little closer to the whales. Expedition voyages are a lot more about wildlife. It's a little bit more about the adventure. You're landing on completely remote areas where there's no docking facilities. There's a lot of hiking. There's a lot of exploring. Typically, our expedition guests are younger, definitely more active program than classic. And of course, the other difference is on classic voyages, you have entertainment in the sense of shows in the evening. On expedition, there is no entertainment per se. The entertainment are port lectures and talks and lessons. And it's really like a school at sea, where we will sail with marine biologists, and we'll sail with glaciologists and botanists, and a whole group of scientists and experts in their field that not only lead the expedition shoreside, but they do a lot of the talks in the evenings and in the afternoons to kind of give you a greater appreciation of what you're seeing, where you are, what there is to look forward to the following day. So expedition is a lot more of an adventure, and classic is a little bit more of a vacation, right? Where you go to relax and unwind and visit some ports. But, expedition is just a little bit more active.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. I have some people here who are expedition all the way. I am too, although I do love a good classic cruise as well. Laura has mentioned the cruise that she asked about at the front end that seemed to disappear. And it could be just because you were rejigging things after COVID and everything stopped. But a cruise, does Silversea have a cruise that goes up the west coast of Africa and visits everything?
We do. We do have a cruise that goes up the west coast of Africa, actually down the west coast of Africa. We've got one that goes from Lisbon to Dakar. That one is, I believe, 20. I can get that information over to you. I'm not sure about the date, but I do know that there is one, because it visits the Cape Verde Islands. It's the first time we're going there, and it goes to Dakar. It's very unique. And yeah, segments of the world cruise also do the west coast of Africa. But typically, when our expedition ships, they typically go pole to pole. So mid-November until late February, early March, all of our expedition ships are in Antarctica, and then between March and May, they sail up the coast of Africa or up the coast of South America, around the east coast of Africa. But anyways, they need to get to the Arctic in time for May, so that they can do the Arctic voyages in May, June, July, and August. And then September, October, November, they sail back down. So they're either sailing up the coast of Africa or they're sailing down the coast of Africa. But yes, we do have them. And so I will take a look and send that information over to you, Sheila.
Perfect.
And the one that I saw was 2021, so it's probably been taken off. It had like
2021 probably, yes. So probably what happened was,
and it went from Dakar down to Cape Town, so it was below Dakar, south of Dakar.
Yeah, so it probably was one that was going to be sailing from Antarctica up to the Arctic, just a repositioning cruise, and it probably would have been going around March, April, early May of
April.
this year, April. So yeah, so we've canceled the voyages for April now. We know we're not going to be sailing in April, or probably May. We probably won't be sailing until the earliest is July. And fingers crossed with the vaccines
That's
and the
too bad. It was a
CDC.
good one. And then
Yeah.
they seem to not have be doing it again since then. Like it doesn't, they're
Well,
not doing it in 22.
you'll have to wait a year. You'll have to wait a year because the ships will then do the Arctic. And of course, the Arctic is a big question as well. Big question mark now because the Canadian government has instituted its cruise ship ban in Canadian waters. So it's not just banning ships from visiting Canadian ports. The cruise ship ban actually bans any ship from entering Canadian waters. So I know, as long as that ban is in effect, the Northwest Passage cruise that we have planned from Kangerlussuaq, Greenland, over to Nome, Alaska, will not be able to operate. So we'll have to redeploy those ships. So, we're kind of waiting and crossing our fingers and hoping that the politicians change their mind, and maybe as the situation with COVID improves, these regulations will be repealed, and we will be able to do it. So, we're not canceling the whole season yet. We're just kind of doing it step by step and keeping our fingers crossed that things might change for the better.
Perfect. And Laura, I know you were asking about Saudi Arabia too. We had looked at, I think Mark gave a presentation, Mark Conroy gave a presentation about the 4 stops in Saudi Arabia, but I think that was just for the Saudi Arabian nationals.
Yeah, there is a segment of the 2022 World Cruise that goes from Mahe in the Seychelles to, where does it go? I think it goes to Aqaba, Jordan. And it's it's like 3 or 4 days in the Seychelles. Then you get, a long stretch. I think it's like 5 days at sea. Then you call in Jeddah in South Africa, and then Safaga in Egypt with I think 2 days there to visit the Valley of the Kings, and then it goes up to Aqaba to visit Petra in Jordan. And that one I know calls in Saudi Arabia. The other one was, you're right, Mark Conroy probably did mention this in this presentation. We had a ship during COVID that was chartered by the Saudi government. That was the Silver Spirit. And it just did 4 ports along the Red Sea coast. So they were just Red Sea cruises, but they were completely restricted to Saudi nationals. And so this is one way cruise lines are figuring out to get around COVID. For example, in 2021, Australia has a travel ban. They are not allowing any visitors to Australia. But we have a ship, the Silver Explorer, that is scheduled to do the Kimberley Coast, which is, Perth to Darwin and Broome to Darwin, spectacular scenery. And we will be operating that, but we will be operating it only for Australian nationals. And so those will be cruises for Australians only, because the Australians won't let any of us in there to limit COVID. And then I think we're also going to be stationing a ship in the UK for UK guests. And I think that might be just doing British Isles with maybe a stop in the Faroe Islands, to comply with the, it might be maybe Faroe Islands, but I think they've got a number of cruises that are just going to be doing circumnavigations of the UK. So Wales, Scotland, some islands out, in the Outer Hebrides and the Orkney Islands, possibly the Faroe Islands as well, which are, I believe, part of Denmark. And so that will be British nationals only. So we might be operating those like in April and May and June until we get the green light to open up cruising to the world. Yeah.
What I love about some of the cruises that you have, like the circumnavigation of South America, even, that's a really neat itinerary.
It's a stunning itinerary. I mean, the great thing about it is it's on the Silver Moon, and Silver Moon has a new restaurant, which we're going to debut. It's going to be called SALT. SALT is an acronym. It stands for Sea and Land Taste, SALT, but salt, of course, the spice of life, right? So that restaurant the menu will change with the destination. So as you begin in Fort Lauderdale, and then you go down to Mexico and Cozumel, the restaurant will serve Mexican cuisine. And then you go down along the coast of Central America. So certain Central American dishes and Central American foods will be introduced to the menu, and the chefs will create dishes from that part of the world. Then as we sail through the Panama Canal and we visit the Andes region, Ecuador, Peru, you'll get a lot of Peruvian cuisine, a lot of ceviche, and different foods from the Andes, from the mountains, different vegetables that most North Americans have never even seen in their supermarkets will be introduced in the kitchen. And so SALT is a restaurant, but it's also a lab. So it's like a cooking school. And they also have a SALT bar. So, when you're in Peru, you can have an authentic pisco sour, for example, made from, different liqueurs from that part of the world. And of course, as the ship sails around the coast of Chile, around Argentina, into Brazil, the foods and the menu will change to reflect the different regions of South America. So it's going to be a very, very exciting cruise from a culinary point of view, because there are cruise ships that, it's beef Wellington, and, there's certain standard items. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. There's certain standard items on the menu, but this is going to be very exciting because we are going to be really exploring the foods of the part of the world while we're there.
Awesome. Mark, we've gone over time. Can I just see, does anyone have I think I caught most of the questions. Go ahead, Shaw. You're on mute. We can't hear you. Oops. We can't hear your microphone. Can you see if you can turn it up? It says you're not on mute, but we can't hear you.
Really?
Oh, now we got
Okay,
you.
now we can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did the whole South America last year, 2.5 months with Cunard, and the ship was very similar to what your ship is. But what I liked is that they had on the sea days, they had lectures, and then we did all the expeditions, and they also had dance classes and the bridge on all the sea days. So it was like nice things to do. Do you have any of those things?
Yes, we do. We always have lectures every day in the theater on a sea day. There's a whole program. So you will have a program given to you the night before, basically outlining all the things that are scheduled for the following day, because some people don't get off the ship. Some people, you're in port and they go, okay, I've been to Cadiz before. This is my 5th time here. I'm a little tired from the trip, so I'm just going to stay on board, and they can participate in any number of the events. So they've got trivia, they've got, language classes, there's bridge lessons, there's a whole variety of different programs being held in different venues throughout the ship every single day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And price wise, how would you compare? Like the one you do the South America, how much would that be?
Well, I'll leave that to Sheila to answer, just because.
Certainly, it's going to depend on the cabin category you have and that kind of thing, and certainly
the length. Yeah, the length of time, and how many days it is, if it's a full circumnavigation or partial. But the category, of course, is going to be the biggest price difference, depending on if you want a lead-in suite or mid-range or a 1-bedroom suite. But I'll leave it to Sheila to deal with the pricing. And then for those of you that are interested in the World Cruise, there's a fantastic video that was done by our ambassador for our Venetian Society members. And it's about 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, but he goes step by step. And of course, the video footage is amazing. So I will send that link over to Sheila, who can then send it to each and every one of you if you're interested in following up. But I can tell you that the 2023 World Cruise, which goes on sale tomorrow, I think it's going to do very, very well, just because we've had massive interest pre-sale with all of our Venetian Society members that, unfortunately couldn't do the 2021 World Cruise because of COVID. So they had to get bumped off. And then 2022 is still on, but that one had already booked up. So 2023 is the next one in the docket. So I will send that information over to Sheila once we get off this call.
I'll send a copy of this recording. I'll send some information about the itineraries if that were asked about, and a copy of that video. Mark, this is great. We're 20 minutes over. Last question from anyone?
For
No?
the
No?
Brazil cruise for Carnival, is there one for 2022?
Yes, I believe so. It's a Rio to Buenos Aires. They're short ones. I think they're 9 days. I
Okay.
can send that over to Sheila as well, and she can forward that over to you too.
Yeah,
thanks.
okay. Just make a
All
note
right.
on the itinerary to follow up.
Okay.
Mark, thank you. This is
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Sheila, for
Okay.
organizing
Take care.
it.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.